Yo, what is going on, guys? Toxico Cereal, and welcome back to another Brawl Stars ranking video. Today, we're going to be ranking every single brawler based on how strong they were on release. So, obviously, we have 8 tiers, and the last tier is called Clueless, because I'm going to be completely honest. Okay, so let me tell you a little bit about when I started playing Brawl Stars. So, I did not start playing Brawl Stars until December of 2020. So a lot of the brawlers before that, the season I started playing was the season Lou came out. So a lot of brawlers before Lou, I have no idea how good they were on release. Now I have watched a lot of videos and know a lot of facts about past brawlers, but there are some brawlers I just have clearly no idea of how good they were. So I'm going to put those brawlers in Clueless, and you guys are going to tell me in the comments about those brawlers. So please tell me, because I need to know, because I don't know. But a lot of the brawlers before, I do know majority of them, but there's a decent amount where I genuinely have no idea. That's why I'm making the Clueless tier. So I'm not saying that it's worse than F tier. You guys just need to tell me how good they were, because I have no idea, and I don't want to misaccurately rank them, because I want you guys to put it in the comments, because I know there's a lot of people. So without further ado, though, let's get into the video, and a lot of these starting brawlers, I will tell you right now, probably going to be most likely Clueless. It's when we get into like the epic rarity, because I know a lot of those brawlers. Starting off with Shelly, I have no idea. I have no idea how good Shelly was in beta days. Same with Nita, same with Colt, same with Bull, same with Brock, same with Primo, same with Barley, and Poco. Those 7 brawlers right there, no idea. You guys need to tell me. But I do know Rosa, and Rosa is the most broken brawler in history. Now, God, she was insanely broken, and that's the easiest S plus on the whole list. She was so broken. Now, moving on to the next brawlers, we have Jesse, no clue. Dynamite, no clue. Tick, no clue. 8-Bit, no clue. Rico, no clue. Daryl, I kind of know. Now, I know Daryl was extremely strong on release, but I'm not going to misaccurately rank him, so I'm going to put him and don't know. Same with Penny. Now, Carl, I remember a long time ago in a Spin LC video, he put him as one of the worst brawlers in history. And I saw his projectile speed, and my God, it was slow. I'm not going to, I don't think I can, I don't know. I'm going to put him D tier. I know his projectile speed was slow. You guys, you might be F tier. It might be F tier. For Jackie, Jackie was out before I played, but I know a decent amount of Jackie, and I remember her being pretty strong because that gadget gave her a 25% speed boost, which it does. Actually, I think it gave 30. It gives a 25% now, which is very strong, but Jackie was just really hard to kill, and she had Counter Crush was terrible, but Hardy Hard Hat was very strong, so I don't think she was not on tier, so she's definitely A tier. Gus, I do know. Gus, on released, he was pretty strong. Now, he hasn't really gotten many nerfs, but he kind of fell off the meta. So I'm going to put him in the A tier because he was quite strong. And then Bo, he's a beta brawler, so I don't have a clue. Ems, I kind of know. Ems was pretty strong on release because she had the gadget and dealt a decent amount of damage. I'll also put it in the A tier. Now, Stu, I 100% know. Stu on release was so crazy. I don't think he's S+, but he had a knockback with the super and dealt a decent amount of damage, had a good amount of HP, and then paired with a Gasso heal, you could not kill this brawler. So he's S. I don't think he's S+, but he's definitely S tier. Next is Piper, no clue. Next is Pam, no clue. Next is Frank, no clue. Those were all beta brawlers. BB, I also don't know, I'll be honest. There's a lot of clueless, but that's going to change. For B, I mean, I kind of know, but not crazy. B was pretty strong on release. Also, the other brawler that she was released with was Max. I heard Max was terrible, and B was quite strong, so I'll put B in the A tier. Nani is my favorite brawler, so I know a lot about Nani, and I remember Nani was absolutely terrible on release, so I'm putting D tier. I don't think she was F tier, but she didn't have the extended projectile, and she also had less HP. She has 4,800 now, but on release she had a little bit more HP than Tick, but the same HP as Piper. And yeah, Edgar on release was so strong. Him and Byron were just everywhere. But everybody got Edgar for free, so he was just completely destroying the meta. He's S tier. Next is Griff, and Griff's a tricky one because Griff, he was meta, but on release he was kind of weak. Honestly, I'll put him C tier. Like, he was kind of reliant on his first star power because his attack speed was so slow, and he doesn't deal as much damage as he does now, but he was just not that great. Next is Grom, and Grom was just so broken on release. He wasn't completely broken, but he's S tier for sure. His attacks, they didn't have that little thing on him, like where they were constant, kind of similar how to Larry and Laurie is right now. So he was just shredding through everybody that got close to him. Even brawlers like Edgar, he could just kill. Another brawler, Bonnie, she was also so strong on release. I think she's also has to be in the S tier because my God, she would jump on you, you stand no chance. She had a very quick projectile speed. It was almost impossible to miss it, and her HP was insane. So she's definitely S tier. Next up is Gale, and Gale I think on release was terrible, and then he got a couple buffs because I remember on release his super actually used to push him back, and he was quite terrible. I don't know if he's F tier, but he's D tier. Colette on release was horrendous. The worst brawler in history, honestly. She was so bad. I wasn't playing before because it was the season right before I started playing the game. She dealt 0 damage, and then the only way you could kill people is with her super. She dealt like 300 damage was the minimum damage. It was so bad. Next up is Belle, and Belle was pretty strong on release. I don't think she was insanely broken as some of the S. I think she has to be S tier, considering the fact she had more range than Piper. And then her bounce shot indefinitely bounced. Like, if you were next to a high safe and spawn trapped, that thing would constantly bounce back and forth, and you couldn't do anything about it. Next up is Ash, and Ash is another brawler that was so strong on release because once he got raged up and you pair him with the Byron, he was unstoppable because I think it takes 125% damage of his HP to fully rage him out. On release, it only took 75%. And my goodness, like once he got raged and he got healed back up, you could not kill him. Next up is Lola, and again, another S tier. I don't think she's S+. She could be. She's arguably. But that little thing around her radius that gives her super 50% less damage, yeah, that didn't exist on release. So she was dealing double damage if you had her right next to her. Next up is Sam, and honestly, Sam, he was really strong. I don't think he was a top 5 brawler in the game, but the thing that was carrying him was the first star power healed him 35%. It was so hard to kill Sam. For me, I don't think I could put him S tier because I don't think he was clearly as broken as the other S tier brawlers, but he's A tier at the lowest. Next up is Mandy, and Mandy was actually one of the brawlers for a long time who actually was not that great on release. She's really still not. She's okay now, but honestly, I'm gonna put her in the D tier. Like she didn't deal the insane amount of damage. She was okay, but her ability just took a while to charge up, and her super was pretty strong, but it just took her a couple buffs to. People started to think she was a good brawler, and then she kind of fell back off. But she was not great on release, and neither was Maisie. Maisie was honestly very bad on release. I'm also putting her in the D tier. Her shots were very challenging to hit. Once you got her super, then once people figured out how to do the combination. But on release, their gadget for disengage, it used to push her backwards, so you couldn't do the combination with the super gadget. Hank on release, man, was I want to put him S+. I can't though, because he was carried by bugs. Very overpowered damage bugs. If you got it, he scaled improperly with power cubes. And if you got him with an 8-bit booster and a Colonel Ruff star power, he deal 10k damage with the bubble. I have to put him S+, because the damage was so unbelievable. It was crazy, because the bugs were just made him so broken. It wasn't even fair. They luckily emergency nerfed him about a week later. But that week, Hank just ruined the entire game. For Pearl, a lot of people thought Pearl was strong on release, but she actually got a nerf and a buff. So the nerf she got was to the Overcooked gadget, but she also got a movement speed buff because her movement speed was so slow. So for me, I'm going to put her C tier. I don't think she was as bad as the D tier brawlers, but she wasn't great. Next up, we have Larry and Laurie, and this is another one that's easily S+. On release, they were so broken. God, 5 hits to get his super. 5 hits! You could not kill them because the freaking first star power transferred all his damage to Laurie, and basically once you killed Laurie, Larry already had another super, and then his other star power was so broken in Heist that literally, if Larry and Laurie got in the safe, you were screwed. You couldn't do anything. And the Brawler's damage to this day is still way too high. Why does he deal more damage than Dynamite? I don't know. It makes no sense. This Brawler is top 5 broken in history. I honestly think he's one, if not the most broken Brawler in history. I think he's more broken than Kit on release. Jesus. Next up, we have Mortis. I don't know. And same with Terra. They're two Brawlers. I don't know because they were back in beta days. Gene, I kind of know. I'm just going to put him in the B tier. Why? I remember his super crashed the game, but I don't remember him being a weak Brawler. You'll have to correct me if I'm wrong with Gene. I know for sure, though, Max was not that great on release. Her damage was pretty weak, and then that was kind of it. Mr. P, I genuinely have no clue. Next is Sprout, and he's S+ for sure. The overgrowth star power made it literally impossible to miss his attack. It was a guaranteed hit every time, and his super was just so easy to cycle, and he ruined the game on his release. He was so strong. Next up, we have Byron, and Byron was insanely strong on release. Stronger than Edgar, which is surprising. And it took a lot of people to realize how strong he was. He had a little more HP than what he has now, but the thing about him is his super cycling was crazy. And he had his star powers were kind of weak. He had a gadget that healed him, but the thing is he could heal his teammates, and it was just so hard to kill him because he would just constantly be healing everybody. And once you got close to him, it was too late. Next is Squeak, and Squeak was horrible on release. He was so bad. Like, literally, anything aggressive, you were screwed. It was impossible to hit his super. His damage wasn't that great, and he had just an awful gadget. All it was it just doubled the distance of his attack. And then his residue gadget came out. Well, that was way before he was he was still terrible, I think, at that time. His residue gadget came out. That thing was terrible because it didn't slow it like it does now. Another Brawler, Lou, F tier. He was so bad on release. I remember getting Lou when I bought the Brawl Pass the first season. He sucked. He dealt no damage. It was horrible. And his super wasn't even that great. He was just a terrible Brawler. Next up, we have Colonel Ruffs. And Colonel Ruffs was really strong on release. The thing that made him so strong is you could spam all 3 of his attacks in literally less than a second. It was just pew, pew, pew. It was just insane. He dealt a crazy amount of damage. Actually, no, I don't think he did that much damage. But his super was just so good because once you got the whole team loaded up with the super, you were done because he was just so good. And then he has the sandbags gadget. He's S tier. Next is Buzz. Buzz is an interesting one because Buzz, honestly, everybody thought he was going to be so game-breaking, but I actually think Buzz became one of the most balanced Brawlers released in a very long time. Like, he wasn't completely broken. He was easily able to be countered. It just took a lot of people to realize how good he was, or how balanced he was after a while, because you could cancel out a stun with a lot of things. He kind of kept falling after that. I believe he's only gotten 2 or 3 buffs in the history. He's never gotten a nerf, so he's been a pretty consistent Brawler. Next up, we have Fang, and Fang was so broken on release. I don't think he was as broken as some of the S+ tiers, but his Fresh Kick star power was so broken. It's still broken to this day, but the thing about his Fresh Kick star powers back then is it used to charge off of anything, not just a Brawler. It used to charge off of Brawler pets, and it used to charge off of Colonel Ruffs' sandbags. How the heck does that make sense? You could auto-aim the heck out of his super and team wipe every time. He kind of can do that now today, especially with this hypercharge, but it was so much easier to do it back then because you could not counter this Brawler. He had a lot of HP, dealt a lot of damage. It was just impossible to kill him. Another Brawler that was broken and released is Eve. Eve was also so broken and released. It was because of I believe it's called Happy Surprise. That star power had no cooldown. Literally, anytime you hit the big egg, spawned a hatchling. It would be infinite hatchlings all over the map. And literally, it did not take that long to cycle her super. She has insane range and also dealt a lot of damage. And also had a decent amount of HP. And then she also has the Gotta Go gadget, which spawns another hatchling. Everything about Eve, hatchling. You couldn't kill her. Literally, you'd have to deal with the hatchlings first, and then you'd somewhat have a chance. Another Brawler, we have Janet. She's also S tier. She was so good on release. Her drop the base gadget literally just scouted the whole field. It had a lot of HP. She dealt a decent amount of damage. I think it only took her 5 hits to get her super, and it was just so hard to kill her because she had great range and then could always punch out damage. And she's always been very meta, and then finally took her a long time to actually get killed. Next up, we have Otis, and Otis was just not good on release. He was pretty weak. Now, after a couple buffs, he became pretty strong, but his super did no damage, which was a big downfall, and he relied deeply on that second star power ink refills, which he still does to this day. So, I don't think he's F tier, but he's definitely D tier, and that's the lowest he can go. Next up, we have Buster, and Buster on release was another insanely broken brawler. God, he dealt a lot of damage, and he didn't even have the slow-mo replay gadget. His super lasted 6 seconds! 6 seconds! It only lasts 3 now, so he could heal up while he had the super, and combine that with the health gear, he could fully heal back up, and then cycle another super. He just dealt a lot of damage. Next up, we have Gray. And Gray's another S-tier brawler. He could arguably be S+ because of some of his broken strategies. First of all, his second gadget. Now, it's not that great because the first gadget's actually better. But his second gadget on the release, the thing was massive. The radius was so huge. He could break open the entire map basically with just a single gadget. His super was so broken. It made so many cheesy plays, especially a knockout with a bow totem before that got reworked. Because he could teleport not only himself, but his entire team with just one super. And it made so many broken plays. And then you combine that with the star power, they would heal up. And Gray was just a menace. He's still good to this day. Next up is RT. And RT is another S-tier brawler. You guys are crazy. The one thing RT did have a problem with is his first gadget. Before his second gadget came out, his first gadget is terrible. But his just, oh my god. He had a lot of HP. And they actually nerfed him before beta, but he wasn't released, like he was put in beta, broken. He dealt a decent amount of damage, but his super was so strong because if anybody got in your super, you spam it a couple times, dead. That was like 4,000 damage at the time, which was equivalent to about 6,000 damage now. Next up, we have Willow. And Willow has not been good, really ever. I'm putting her D tier. You could argue F tier, because Willow has just never been that great. I don't think she was released like this, but it took a second for actually her to deal damage. She does okay damage, but her super sucks. Like, her super is really hard to hit, and it didn't even give her a shield, which it does now, which I still think the shield's not that great, but she doesn't have a crazy amount of HP, and the other throwers are just better. Next up, we have Doug, and that's an easy F tier. Doug's never been good. He's been one of the worst brawlers in history. He's gotten, like, 6 buffs probably, and he's still never been meta. Not even close. Next up is Chuck, and Chuck is, I don't know. Honestly, I'm torn between A or S. I don't think Chuck was as broken as we thought. Sure, he could spawn immediately with a super. I have to give him S tier, because he was the best brawler in the game. Because Chuck, my goodness, he had 4 posts on the field, unless you use the other star power, which most of the time you don't need it. He could spawn in with an immunity shield, and especially in game modes like Heist, he'd deal indefinite damage. Hot Zone, he'd just get back in the zone immediately. You couldn't kill him. He was good almost everywhere, and it was just really hard to kill him because he had a lot of HP. He only got 1 nerf, and he kind of fell, but he's okay now. Next up is Charlie, and S+. Top 3 most broken brawler in history. On release, her cocoon lasted for 10 seconds, removed 50% of your HP with the digestive star power, and you came out of the cocoon with no ammo. You were screwed if you got cocooned. It only took her 5 hits to get it. Not to mention, she also had one of the most broken gadgets in history, spiders, 2,200 HP for 3 spiders that deal 800 damage per hit. What was not broken about this brawler? And also, her super is so easy to hit. The projectile speed is so quick. You can't do anything. You couldn't do anything against this brawler. If this brawler was on the enemy team, you were screwed. Even with the 3 emergency nerfs afterwards. World Finals came, and she was banned in all 80 games. That's how you know it's a top 3 most broken brawler in history. Next up is Miko. And Miko is a relatively new brawler, but he's got to be, I don't think I could put him S tier, but he's definitely A tier. He's a very strong brawler right now. He does a lot of damage for someone that can jump over walls. You could argue S tier. I'm putting him A. Nah, you know what? I have to put him S tier because if I put Chuck S tier, Miko's S tier because I would argue Miko is a little bit stronger than Chuck. I think Miko, I don't think is a top. He's probably borderline top 5 brawler in the meta right now, but he's really strong. He deals a lot of damage. He has a really good star power. He has 2 pretty good gadgets, and then his super is just so good for cycling. And he does have a hypercharge that kind of sucks, but everything about Miko is really strong. So, S tier. Next up is Spike. I don't know. And then Crow. I don't know. They were beta brawlers. Leon. S+. Everybody knows how broken Leon was on release. His super lasted for 10 seconds. And then he also, I believe it's like a 4 title radius or something. If you get close to an enemy brawler, he reveals himself. Yeah, that didn't exist on release. So you could just stand on top of a brawler and delete him. And then just get your next super. Next up is Sandy. And I really don't know. I don't know how good Sandy was on release. Amber. Amber was very broken on release. She's going S tier. Like, she had a very fast movement speed, dealt a lot of damage, and her super dealt a lot of damage. It was so just, it's meta. Amber was everywhere. You couldn't kill. She was just delete you anytime she lost. And then also, nobody knew about the auto aim mechanic. She just moves super fast, so she should just shred down everybody. Next up is Meg, and Meg on release also was insanely strong. Like, what the heck, man? Once she got in her mech, it dealt a lot of damage. Her super, obviously, with DK. And obviously, I don't really know, like, mech, like, super very well. But it only, once she was killed in mech form, it only took her 6 hits to get back into mech form. And she respawned, once they killed her mech, she had 3 ammo. So all she needed to do was hit all 6 of those attacks. Bam! She jumped right back in the mech. Not to mention, she had a star power that gave her a 35% shield for 30 seconds. 30 seconds? What the heck? You couldn't kill her when she came out of the form. And then she got a little bit weaker, and then they gave her that rework that made her completely broken. But we're only talking about on release. Next up is Surge. And Surge is, I have to put him as plus. On release, he was so broken. His first star power used to split no matter what. Once he got to stage 4, you could not kill this brawler. He literally would just shred you to pieces. And it was just absurd. Next up, we have Chester. And Chester on release was, he was so strong. Like, the thing that made him broken the most was, 1, he dealt a lot of damage. But 2, the super. God, it was so broken. If you got stunned, you were so dead. You had nothing you could do because he just shred you to pieces. Itself, it did a lot of damage. And then not to mention, the projectile on that super was so fast. If you got that stun super, especially in Showdown, you were so screwed. Next up is Cordelius, and I want to put him S+ so badly. So we're going to do it. Cordelius on release, man. Holy mackerel. He was so broken. It just was not fun to play because the thing about Cordelius is he had a gadget that gave him half an Otis super for 1.5 seconds. That was another one broken thing. The second thing is, it took no time to cycle his super. 3, he could recharge his super in the Shadow Realm. So once he killed the person in the Shadow Realm, he just put another person in the Shadow Realm. And also, in Solo Showdown, you could keep a certain brawler in the Shadow Realm indefinitely. Not to mention, he had another pretty good gadget, which is actually the better gadget to this day. He could use his gadgets in the Shadow Realm. You can't use the Poison Mushroom one. He could still use Replanting. That better get nerfed. He shouldn't be able to use that gadget in the Shadow Realm either. But the fact that he could get another super and a Shadow Realm, it only took him 5 hits to get his super, and he has an automatic supercharging rate. What the heck? I swear, how? And then the final brawler on this list is Kit, and that's another easily S+. Now, he's not that great anymore, but on release, if you guys, now obviously, he's a new brawler. If he jumped at an enemy, he was immune. He still has one of the best gadgets ever released that gives him a Leon super for 5 seconds. 5 seconds, not to mention the gadget was bugged, and if you're usually how it's supposed to work is if you stand still, it doubles the supercharging rate. That was bugged, so it would double the supercharging rate no matter what. And then he jumped, and also, the most broken thing about him by far is when he jumped on a teammate, obviously it'd give him heals, but his throwing attack will do 4,000 damage. 4,000 damage! What the hell are we thinking? 4,000 damage for a thrower is absurd. Like, how the heck? And then after 15 seconds with the star power, he'd jump off. But for some reason, another bug was he would have his super when he fell back off the teammate, so he'd jump right back on the teammate. And not to mention, in solo showdown, he has a star power that gives him double value from power cubes. After you got about 5 or 6 cubes, you could indefinitely jump on the Brawler because it was a bug with the power cube scaling. He could just jump. You could, if Kit got 6 power cubes, and he jumped on you, you were dead. There was nothing you could do, except he just jump on you. Like, you had nothing you could do. It was a cooked game, and you should just say your prayers. But yeah, that's gonna be it for this video. I really hope you guys enjoyed. Please let me know in the comments all the ones I put in Clueless, and then correct me on a couple brawlers. Like Gene is one of the brawlers, and another brawler, I believe. I can't think of the other brawler. I'm sure it's on here somewhere, but there's a couple brawlers I'm kind of clueless about. So please tell me all the ones I have in the Clueless tier, because I need to know. But that's going to be it for this video, guys. I really hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you next time.